this is a wonderful healing and uniting project for us, for individuals who even aren't Catholic. I came in and there was a woman crying in here, and she was from another church this week. There are other people who it speaks to, and I really do feel that this is the work of the Holy Spirit, and it will go farther. So thank you for being here to do your part to spread the word. I think at this point I'd like to introduce Father Ron, who really doesn't need much introduction, but he's a priest of the Holy Order, the Order of the Holy Cross. He's served at Sacred Heart Parish twice. I don't know how many of you were here when he served the first time. I was not, but some of you were. And in Portland, Oregon in between, serving there among the poor and marginalized of the city. He's a writer, a blogger, a retreat director, and obviously a visual artist, using all these talents to express his thoughts on prayer, service, and knowing the love of God. So I'd like to ask Father first to lead us in prayer today, and take it from there.
Great. Let's gather in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Ever gracious and merciful God, we beg your healing spirit within our lives and in our church this day, as we stand before you in the light, opening our hearts to the possibility and wonder of your surprise by the gift of the Spirit. Bring us the peace that you offered the disciples after the resurrection. May we receive his breath. And may we know too the gift and hope of the Holy Spirit in our lives. We are grateful for this day. Help us to believe always in the power of your love. And we ask blessings in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, thank you all for being here. Oh my gosh. So I want to introduce John Kyler. Oh my gosh. This story has been so incredibly important for me, and all of this stuff came from John's invitation. So John has come from Collegeville, Minnesota, St. John's, in Collegeville Liturgical Press. So he is here today to tell the story and to be with us. And the interesting thing too is that John has not seen, of course, the originals. And so, oh my gosh, John, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
So, welcome.
Friends, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A special thank you to John and to Sandy and to Ron for making this possible. As you said, my name is John Kyler on behalf of Liturgical Press. I'm so excited, so thrilled to be here with you, just to talk a little bit about this story of how these stations came to be. It's funny to think, in some ways, this story began 7 years ago. I was a novice here in Colorado Springs with Holy Cross, and I met Father Ron. And at that point, Ron has been nothing but an incredible friend and mentor to me in growing in my faith life and personal life, and now with all of your experience in publishing, now as a source of wisdom for me as I work in that field. So this really began when we met back then. As you all know, I'm preaching to the choir here. I think it's easy and safe to say that Ron gets it. Right? Ron gets it. Yes. In a church and in a world where it's so easy to be closed, to be hardened, to be vulnerable is such a gift. And to lead with that vulnerability and that humility, Ron. there just aren't words. And I know your community knows that as well. So like I said, preaching to the choir. Formally, this project then began, I'd say about 2 years ago, even before I was at Liturgical Press. My predecessor, Shannon, was the Parish Market publisher, and she received a manuscript from Paul Turner. He's the author of the text, and Paul, as you may know, is a well-renowned liturgist across the country, around the world. If someone has a liturgy question, you go to him, right? If someone wants to read what's going on, the latest findings or writings in liturgy, it's always Paul. So Paul is in Kansas City. Thank you. The St. Joseph's Diocese, Missouri, Kansas City, where his bishop invited him to prepare this text, to prepare a service of healing for the diocese, specifically centered on this notion of healing from clerical sexual abuse. As we know, this is not an easy topic by any means. What there is with Ron displays in his art, and as you can see in the text, there's grace in that vulnerability. There's grace in that openness. So Paul submitted it to Liturgical Press. My predecessor said, sure, let's publish this. But then it kind of sat on the shelf for probably half a year to a year because we couldn't find the right art to go with the text. Right? This text is so deep, so personal, so honest, right? That it wasn't going to work to take existing art from somewhere else, right? To go pull clip art or pull existing images. So I remember sitting around this table, all of my colleagues and I, like, who is going to do the art for this project? All of a sudden, and again, Pentecostal Holy Spirit. I looked up, I was like, Ron's going to do it. So I texted Ron later that day, and I was like, Ron, we have an idea. And you're like, okay. A couple days later, we sat together in my office. This was just right before COVID started, so this was last January. So my boss and I sat in our office, and we Zoomed with Father Ron, and we pitched this idea to him. We said, Ron, we've got this incredible text, this incredible prayer resource that deals with bringing the atrocities, the difficulties of sexual abuse, but also the hope that comes from us moving forward together in prayer and not turning away from that reality. And I said, Ron, what do you think? Do you want to take a go at illustrating these, at painting these? And thank God, he said yes.
But not right away.
No. I think Ron thought I was crazy at first for asking it.
Yeah.
But I knew, as I said, the person who did this artwork needed to be someone, as I said, who got it, who understands the importance of vulnerability and humility and sacrifice and community, right? These would be inauthentic if that art was done by someone who wasn't rooted in those realities. So a couple days later, Ron texted me back and said, sure, let me try it. And I think you did one or two in a couple days, like, is this kind of what you're feeling? And I was like, oh my gosh.
I gave you some examples of my other work. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's true. I've seen Ron's work in other magazines, on his blog, and stunning. I mean, stunning's an understatement. It is, it is. Stunning is an understatement. So we continued to talk, converse, and then, this is a fun fact. We asked for the stations, the images, once Ron agreed, we asked for them to be given to us, I think by like August 1st. Right, so August 1st. Ron, when did you turn them in?
May 1st.
May 1st. Which was wonderful. Like, we weren't even ready for them yet. And he's like, John, I've got them, here you go. When I first looked at them, I knew that they were going to be a vehicle to help people pray. As Sandy said, though, seeing them in person for the first time today is a completely different experience. It's a completely different emotional, personal, physical, visceral experience. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that, as Sandy said, this artwork can be shared as it was intended, right? As these beautiful painted works. And I'm grateful they were able to include them in our book. I think the text by Paul and the artwork by Ron pair so perfectly together, so perfectly. And then we realized that both Paul and Ron were priests taking on this project, right? And that brings a whole nother dimension to this, right? Through Paul's words, through Ron's art, beginning in some small ways to acknowledge, to name, and to begin to make amends for the horrific acts of their brother priests. And I think there's so much hope in that. There's so much hope in that. I look at these paintings and I see those difficult realities, I do. But I also see the hope that is clearly in them. Holy Cross Parish, I have to quote Basil Moreau, because if I didn't, I would miss the opportunity. But he said that human life is like a great wave of the cross. We don't have to go to the chapel or the church to experience it. We experience the way of the cross every day, even in spite of ourselves, and without being aware of it. We experience the way of the cross every day, even in spite of ourselves, and without being aware of it. I think in a very, very real way, you've helped us, Rob, to be aware of the realities of the cross, of the hurt of our brothers and sisters, and also help us look at it through a lens of hope.
Right. Thanks, John.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
That was my next question.
What was your next question?
No, it has to do with him, and I'll ask
Okay.
him.
You can ask it right now.
Oh, well, if you were a novice,
You know what's coming, right?
I don't.
did you complete all of it?
I didn't. I left in May,
Okay.
so right around this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a great formative year. It grew in prayer and
Well, we're
relationship with
glad
God.
we have you for whatever it was.
Thank you. It was wonderful, wonderful.
And this project would never have happened.
It would not have
Yeah,
happened.
that's
No,
right.
it would not have happened.
But before I start, John, in the ways that you can, tell us about the reluctance of the press to
Sure.
do this project.
Sure. As I kind of alluded to, you can imagine this is not a light topic.
No.
This is not an easy topic. This is not a feel-good topic. But when I started my role in the press, one of my goals, and I learned this goal from Ron, was the importance of bringing the realities of our world and our church to our prayer, right? Rather than ignoring it, pushing it aside, bringing those realities and naming them. So there were so many meetings where people in marketing or people on the team were like, "This is a beautiful idea. We think this could be really great, but it's a hard topic, right? It's not easy." And I'm grateful that even amid that initial reluctance, there's always support of the project in the sense that, yes, this is important. But what does that mean for actually taking the steps and producing and publishing it as a book? And I'm grateful that in the end that my colleagues decided that it was important to be prophetic, to put ourselves out there, to be vulnerable ourselves, right? Making that investment in a project of this sort. And I'm so glad we did. And I can honestly say we've received so much positive feedback by people who've been able to pray with these stations. So I'm grateful that we looked past those initial worries, those initial concerns, to make it happen.
Yeah, and when last year when John asked me, his boss, Shannon, a woman was 28 years old. And John at the time was 30. And they said to me, if the two of them, if they don't do this in the church, nobody will. And that's when I said, okay, all right, I'll see what I can do. Well, John, I'm so grateful you're here, and my gosh, I haven't seen you forever. And so I thought I would just chat for a little bit, and then maybe we may go back and forth, and then take some questions or whatever. So I want to start by what happened after I finally said yes to John's request. I started drinking a lot. No. I got my materials together, and I started just playing for a few days, for a week or so, and this was still about 2 weeks or so before the shutdown. And of course, little did any of us know what was coming. So I got the materials, I started in, and I put some paint on a canvas. And then all of a sudden I realized in those gestures and those movements that I was trying to control the image. And I stood there and wept. Because that's what the church has been doing all these years. Trying to control the image. Trying to control its outcome. Trying to control and package this issue as if it doesn't matter. So I started just playing around with paint. And in the first one, I started putting paint on a canvas that, with my hands and a brush, a paper towel, whatever. And when I started painting here at Sacred Heart 7 years ago, Lisa Lundquist, I said to her, Lisa, I'm too gosh darn old for you to tell me what color to use. And I don't care about that. I want to do what I do. So I just started putting color on. So the first one, the first station, in all of the chaos of the color, in all of the uncertainty about its outcome, what I saw there were the eyes of Jesus. And from all of that chaos, then I started to cry again. Because for the first time, I realized that the issues of abuse, that chaos has to be one of the main characters of this Stations of the Cross. It's the chaos out of which then comes the healing. The chaos cannot be controlled or wiped over or whitewashed. The chaos has got to be able to speak of what the healing and redemption of Jesus Christ is all about. And I stood there and realized that out of the chaos was emerging the eyes of Jesus. And I knew them. Now, were those the eyes that I would have painted if I was trying to control the painting? Gosh, no. That's not the Jesus I would have painted. But the Jesus that wanted to emerge from the abuse and the chaos and the uncertainty of the agony of the garden, that's the image that emerged. And then the eyes behind him are those disciples that tried so much to stay awake on Holy Thursday night. They tried their best to pay attention. Those eyes are the eyes also of the abuser. The abuser is trying his best to be known and yet to be hidden. And it is the eyes of the abuser as well as those of the disciples who are trying to emerge in that painting. So then the cup of suffering in that text is there. And then the hand, which is the hand of all of our children, but it's also the hand of the child within each one of us that longs to touch, to find for our own lives the profound mystery of Jesus Christ. In that first painting, I realized too that the hand was also me. Trying my best to touch what I've spent my whole life longing for. The healing grace of Jesus. I was groomed as a senior in high school by a very dear friend of our family's, a priest. But the amazing thing at the time is that I didn't know it. Of course, you don't. And that's the secret and the cunning nature of being groomed. It has taken me almost 50 years to find my hand there. But it's okay. It's also one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this project. Because I'm in it too. And I don't pretend that I'm not. This project has been one of the most profound things spiritually that has happened to me as a priest. I am just so grateful that it turned out the way it did. The interesting thing about much of the painting, of course, is that in all of those, in all of the segments, all of the paintings, I tried to allow the chaos to speak. And again, would some of those be the colors that I would ever use if I was using my head to paint the Stations of the Cross? No, it's not. You know, when for those of you who may have been at the opening on May 7th, it opened at 5 o'clock and they let me in here at 4:30 so I could see it. It was overwhelming to me. And it was, I was grateful for those few minutes that I had alone in here. And you know, as I look at some of those paintings that, you know, for example, the cover of the book is Station 7. And when I looked at Station 7 over there, I thought, you know, would anybody in their right mind use yellow in that station when Jesus is bearing the cross? Nobody would do that. But I also realized that it wasn't me who was doing it. It was God trying to emerge from the chaos, but it was also the children who understand the combination of suffering and healing. They understand no matter how dark something is, that's also the place of light. And so, of course, it makes perfect sense that as Jesus bears his cross, there's yellow in it. I didn't see that until May 7th. There are some certain things in these paintings that, believe it or not, of course, that just emerged. I didn't paint them. For an example, this in Station 13 here, you may have seen this in the book too, but there, first of all, Jesus doesn't have hands in this, nor do you see the cross. But of course, the hands of Jesus become the children. So they are both supporting him and redeeming him, as he too is supporting us and redeeming us. And this cross that is in the heart of Jesus, I did not paint. It just emerged out of the chaos. But the more I looked at it and the more I realized, of course, is that the crucifixion is not, for the rest of us, not something external. It is something internal. It is something that we need to die to ourselves to find him and to find his goodness and glory far deep within our own human experience. A lot of these things were not planned. It just emerged. On the station over there with the women of Jerusalem, I had the bands of yellow, I had all the chaos on the canvas. And isn't it interesting that what emerged is that in the bands of yellow were the three women who came to the side of Jesus. And their expressions, again, are just priceless for me. I think it's been really important for me too, because I have known several priests who have been the abusers. And I've also known several people who have been abused. And that combination for me was exactly the combination that I think probably John saw in asking me in the first place. You know, when John asked me, my first impression, of course, was no, because I know the kind of art that Liturgical Press publishes, and it's not this.
Anymore.
Anymore. Anymore. Right? But it was profoundly humbling, indeed. So I think, why don't I just leave it at that? And let's have some discussion. Let's have some questions. Let's have some observation. Yes?
Did you paint them in order?
Yes. So after the invitation, I got the materials. I started working, and then the shutdown happened, right? So I actually had time to really do this. So I painted them in order. Yeah. Yes.
When did you paint the hands?
The children's hands. I saw in the first two. I did the first two. And then I saw that the children were not in it. And I also realized that I needed to be in it too. So that's when I came up with the motif about the handprint. The handprint is incredibly important for me. The handprint is, again, all of us. It's not just the children. It's the child within each one of us. So I came up with that after doing 2 of them. Yeah. Yes, Brother Randy?
I wonder if John could tell us a bit about Father Paul's reaction of pairing these paintings with his words.
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
I hope it's a good answer.
I hope so too.
I would say that they were not what Paul was expecting. But he said multiple times how wonderful they were and how they convey his text so well. Right? So again, not what was expected, but still in a unique way, in your way, we're able to make that connection in a beautifully.
And I just sent Paul an email a couple days ago, and giving him, Sandy, the video that you did, and the article from the Colorado Springs Independent. If you've not seen that, it's really worth reading, by the way. It's the best of the articles. But I sent those to him, and he sent me an incredibly wonderful email just a couple of days ago, and how pleased he is with the whole project, and how important it is for him too. Yeah.
I think it's taken off in ways that Paul couldn't have imagined, you couldn't have imagined, I couldn't have imagined
Yeah.
back when we started to put the pieces together.
Right. Yes.
Has there been pushback or criticism about this work, and if so, how has it been handled?
I think the pushback has been simply just people not answering. So, by the way, the bishop that commissioned this text is Bishop Johnston from Kansas City, St. Joseph, Missouri, which is Father Paul's bishop, right? That bishop, Bishop Johnston, sent a copy of this book to every single bishop in the United States. Yeah. And Sandy?
Can I just add one small comment? I want you to know that because I wanted the bishops in the area to be notified, so of course we let them know about what was going on with the exhibit. And because then, just a week ago, 10 days ago, is it now, we had the announcement of Father Jim Golka being our bishop-elect. And I thought, well, we can't leave him out, but it was so close to it, I didn't know where he was. So I sent essentially the letter that I'd sent to other people to Father Golka via email. And I sent it to him, I think it was 2 days before the show opened, and just said, I don't know where you are, but this will be here, and wouldn't it be lovely if you want to come, please come. And I sent it off about 10 o'clock at night, and when I got up the next morning, I had a response from Father Jim Golka thanking me for the information, saying how important it was that we were all doing this, and wasn't it wonderful that we had done the stations at Lent, and he's very eager to see it and to know more about the book. He was not a bishop, so he didn't get a copy of the book, but I will make sure that he does. I just was so heartened. I was amazed. I was flabbergasted. But I was so heartened by his clear support of the project.
Yeah.
And all of our involvement.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that Father Kyle is here from the diocese, and I think Father Kyle is the only diocesan priest who has seen the show. So I'm really, really grateful that you're here, Kyle. Anybody else? Yes.
I do think it is noteworthy. I know the silence is awful when that you've experienced. But I do think it's worth noting that it was written up in the Catholic Herald
Yes.
in 2 or 3 editions
Yeah.
prominently
Right.
for people to attend.
Sure.
So we do certainly have the support of our bishop
Yeah.
through his newspaper, the Catholic Herald.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So the pushback, I think, I've not gotten any directly. John, again, when he said that Liturgical Press at the beginning was not so eager at publishing it, until those 2 young people talked them into it. So,
Well, I think it gets to the reality of, like I said, you said, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to bring light to, but
Yeah.
it was worth
Yeah.
pushing for.
yeah.
Father Ron, I know that you've done a lot of artwork for our bulletin and other pieces. Has any of the artwork that you've done in the past, has there been anything that has emerged like this? Some of the things that you've pointed out to us have just emerged in the painting. Has anything like that, had you ever experienced that?
No, not like this, no.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I tried my darndest to simply get out of the way. That's what I tried to do. Yeah. Yes.
Is there anywhere, let me see how I want to say this. I know that Sacred Heart just spends a lot of money redoing the sanctuary and all the woodwork and stuff. And I have to tell you, I was very disappointed. I know you have the stations repainted and, they look nice and sweet and, typically Catholic. And I guess one of the most powerful experiences I have ever had was I walked into a ghetto church, a church in the ghetto in Rome. And it's a church that was originally pagan, and then it was built on top of that, and then the Catholic Church. It's called St. Nicholas if you ever get to Rome. And it's the home of the charismatic movement in Rome. And I was walking around looking at the stations of the cross, and these all remind me of that. And the 10th station, which is Jesus is disrobed, was so powerful, it felt like God's hand just reached in and twisted my heart. And it was a symbol of Jesus with all these hands pulling at his clothes. And that's what your paintings are reminding me of. We need to see the strength in our faith, and we need to see the strength in our people, not pink and yellow and blue. I mean, yellow is the color of spirituality and intuition, but we need to see that strength.
Yeah.
And our people need to know that this is a powerful thing, but it's also something that reaches inside and has the power of healing and has
Real
the power
transformation.
to name the
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I-
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Along the journey, I just did what John wanted me to do, and after that, I don't know what's going to happen. So
That's called the voice of God.
That's it, yeah. Ms. Sue?
I apologize if this has already been discussed, but did you talk about why the colors are so vibrant and rich and
right?
Yes. No, I did not. I did not. Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's, as I said, like in that Station 7, that the colors are, what I tried to do is to imagine the colors a child would use. And what would a child do? And all of the crazy color combinations that these are. They are, I literally just intuitively just picked up paint. I didn't worry about what color it was. So, but again, it's to reflect the child. The child is in here. The child is in the chaos. The child is in the color. The child is in the hands. The child is in the redeeming journey of Christ to die and rise. The child is here. The child has to be here. And it's not just the child, it's the child in each one of us too, right? Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Will the Pope be receiving?
Yes, we should.
I think Francis would love that.
I think he would.
Yes.
After this is over, where are they going?
Have no idea. No, I don't know. Sandy and John and I have talked, gosh, wouldn't it be great if these were somehow traveling? I think liturgical press, I think, needs to make that happen. That's what I think.
So I'm gonna tell a story. As we were working through this, from starting last spring, throughout the whole time, and I love this. I could almost expect it. Every time I would send Ron an email or a text, I had my phone ready because he was just going to call me, right? And he would say, "I think we should do this," or "I think we should do that." And I love that. I love that excitement and the enthusiasm that you had about it, but just thinking and trying. I can say one thing that's really exciting is this summer at the National Association of Pastoral Musicians Conference, where musicians, liturgical musicians from all over the country come together. We're having a featured event one of those nights where we're praying these stations together as a community. So we're really looking forward to that. So that'll be in New Orleans in July.
So, yes. Hold on. What?
More than we could have expected or imagined. Yes. Yes.
As two leaders, spiritual leaders in the church, what do each of you see this? What is God? What do you see God is saying in this project?
For me, I'd say God reminds me through this to be vulnerable, to be open, to be willing to take risks, and to try things, right? Maybe something won't work. Maybe something won't be received as I hope it is. But part of being prophetic, part of proclaiming that message of the resurrection is putting ourselves out there. And I think this is a reminder in my other projects at the press to keep doing that, to keep saying we need things like this.
I think it's important to do. This is the only resource, at least that we know of, right, that is available for parishes to pray through the issues of abuse. It's the only one so far. So my hope would be that there would be dozens of these, that there would be all kinds of resources available for parish communities to pray. Because as John said, we've got to pray the issues of life. We can't hide behind them. We can't ignore them, sweep them under the carpet. We can't control them. And so we have to be able to learn as a community about how to pray through difficult things. and issues that face us in the church. And of course, sex abuse by the clergy is one of those. Yeah.
Can I just add a little bit just to that
Sure.
point? In that here in this building, there's a group, a therapy group, an art therapy group called Finding Our Voices. And when we knew we were going to do this exhibit, I contacted Joyce Aubrey, who's the founder and president of it, and told her about it. She was so excited about this. Because she said to me, you know, Sandy, the Catholic Church has gotten so much press about this, as they should. But sexual abuse of children happens in the family. It happens in schools. As a teacher, I know all the training we've had to go through. It happens in sports. It happens in other churches. So as we bring this kind of healing to our own church, which desperately needs it, we're really also offering it to the rest of the community, because it doesn't just happen here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's been so important that this art and the spirituality is in the public square. And the reaction to it has been pretty gosh darn overwhelming. So, yeah.
This is just a comment. You and Sue and Lynn Boudreau and Chris gave us the Stations of the Cross on Fridays. And it was so helpful to get through it. And I thought, what is this going to be? You know, I'm kind of a guy that wants to see it all. They were just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful prayer experiences. I don't know about the rest of you that were there, but that was my
Yeah. It's a whole different thing, and I don't know if John really has experienced this, but you know, it's one thing to see the painting, it's another thing to read it on your own in this book, but it's another thing to hear it in community and to hear, the last time we did it at Sacred Heart, I had the community itself read the line from the survivor of abuse. So the whole community read it together. That changed everything for me, you know, when the community can own that. So, yeah. Holy smokes. Isn't this fantastic?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Yes.
Is it possible you would have another Stations of the Cross next year with the abuse, with this topic?
Sure. Just praying from here. Yeah.
From there.
Oh, definitely.
I'm
We
sure
will.
you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if this is an unintended consequence of this or not, but are you aware that it also brings up other kinds of hurts in childhood and adulthood, and
Yes.
other mistakes in childhood and adulthood? By the time I got around, I was like, oh my God, this is like bam, 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 bam.
So, what you're saying is that it brings up other things from childhood as well, not just the abuse, but other mistakes, other challenges that we've all faced growing up. Yeah. Isn't this an incredible gift you are? Oh my gosh. John, anything else?
No, I think what you just said, what an incredible gift you are. You know, liturgists, we have some throwaway phrases. One of which is, shouldn't be. And it's that liturgy literally means, in the Greek, the work of the people. And that's what this is. That's what you being here today is. I think that's so, I'm gonna cry, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, again, the text that is on the wall for each station is not in the book, but I'm sure when there's a reprint of the book, John will put it in but it is in the pamphlet, so make sure that you get that. There's water and stuff in the back. Make sure you grab a bottle of water before you leave or whatever. So we're here till 4. So please, yes, okay.
Why the text that you have on the wall was not put in the book next to
See, John?
That is a great question. I can tell you that as an editorial team, we went back and forth and back and forth. Part of it is we wanted the images to speak for themselves as we were praying, so someone with praying could just focus on that, not have to be flipping back and forth or getting distracted or looking in places, but just like really focus on the art.
Yeah. So the next printing, it'll be in there.
I want to say too, I was just thinking this as I was looking at the cover station, as we were talking about the cover, Ron sent me, I was like, Ron, what do you want on the cover? So he sent me 3 or 4 images that he thought would be good for the cover. And our designer at La Presse was just like, no, I'm going to pick a different one. And I'm so glad she did. Because I think we both spoke about that we wouldn't have imagined it, we wouldn't have guessed it.
Right.
But the spirit was moving, and it was.
I think the cover of the book too, which is Station 7, that's another one of those things for me that, never in a million years would I have thought that the bearing of the cross for Jesus was a drowning, was the beginning of our baptismal life, was the beginning of diving deep into their baptismal waters to find new life in Him. Again, I didn't do that intentionally. That drowning that is on the cover here, that's Station 7, it just happened. Right? Yeah.
I would like to see Father Ron's work on Give Us This Day.
See there. See there.
I would too. I agree. I will bring that to our team. I will. I absolutely will.
That was priceless.
It was. I agree. I agree.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Okay.
I just want to let you all know that this artwork will be here in this room until the 29th, that's Saturday, this coming Saturday. So if you know of other people who couldn't make it, give them a call, maybe take a book home for them. And Cottonwood is open, won't be open tomorrow, but it's open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5. And this room is open that entire time. People can come in, be with the art, and say their own prayers or walk and enjoy it. So please spread the word. Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all so much.